How many passive-aggressive, drunken narcissists does it take to ruin a band? Unfortunately, just one. Hey kids, Adam here, and as the title suggests, there are some things going on. Before we get into the really heavy stuff, check out this link up here to the video that I did with John Matthews from Toucan Studios. For those of you who don't know John, he has been creating plugins for like the last 2 years, all for free, all in the Jesus Sonic or whatever it's called code for Reaper. They're all free plugins. They're all easy to install. And he's on his Series 2, and the one that I did was called the Bass Station Series 2, and it is a bass amp simulator plugin. So go over, check that out over at his channel, and it's a great plugin. I demoed it. I did use this nifty new bass behind me, and I had a lot of fun with it. So go check that out. Now onto the serious stuff. I first want to say that I don't think I'm going anywhere. So for those of you who are like, oh, this is just another YouTuber leaving, first of all, I don't really consider myself a YouTuber. I'm just kind of a guy who does YouTube videos. I'm not like ya boy here on YouTube or whatever, but I've had fun with the channel. I originally started in 2020 as something to do. My good friend Mike from Let's Talk About Reaper, and I'll put a card up there for his channel. He and I actually were talking about starting a channel together. And then probably within the first half an hour of chatting about it, realized that we were looking for two different things. He was looking for more to the point, real helper videos with quick tips and things. And I'm looking to just babble and do what I do. And obviously his way works better or differently because he has like 10,000 subscribers. I have like 1,100, but that's another story altogether. I do really appreciate every one of you that has stuck with me throughout this little adventure that we've had. But anyway, so we were in the middle of COVID. It was 2020. Nothing really to do. I had indoor soccer show that I was doing that I've talked about before. I had no band going on. We were doing like weekly or so Zoom meetings, but they were more just kind of a hangout thing. Work was kind of crazy, but after work hours, there was like watching TV and really nothing else to do. So I decided to start up a channel, and I wanted to do everything under the sun. I wanted to do mixing. I wanted to do bass stuff. I wanted to do maybe some bass covers, all sorts of things. But really, I kind of wanted to use it to help promote my band, Underground Hive. We kind of hit a road. Nobody really wanted to do any work with the band on social media, so I took it upon myself to do. I did a series of mix breakdowns for one song, and I decided just to use this as a platform to kind of promote my band, really without promoting it. Like I would use my band's songs for mixing and things like that, since that's 99% of the mixing I've done has been for my band. But I really wanted to kind of get people over and listen to the songs. And in 2021, we released an album, and I used a lot of the tips and tricks that I talk about on this channel in that album. However, things in the band have been dying off for a long time. The official end of Underground Hive was in August, about a little over a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago. I kind of just decided to call it quits. I'll get in a little bit that in a second. It's a touchy subject for me. You know what? Why don't we just dive into it? So let's see. We've been together since about 2012. I went to grade school, and then like kindergarten through third grade, and then high school with the lead guitarist and lead singer. I'm not going to mention any names on here. Everyone who knows the band knows who they are. I'm gonna kind of trash talk him a little bit, but that's more of a personal thing than anything else. And we didn't really hang out in the same groups in high school. We were completely different parts. He wasn't involved in high school music. He was doing it all on his own, and figured he was 14 and playing pro gigs already, so why bother, doing a high school music program? And I thought I was going to be a music major for a living. So I was working on, both cello, bass, and then drums kind of on the side. We ran into each other off. I just, posted an ad saying bass player available. He replied. We hit it off really well. We had our drummer at first. We got about a year or so into that, and we replaced him with the drummer that went through the course of the band, Spike. Very good friend of mine. In fact, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we're going to do something moving forward. And then we picked up a keyboardist after a couple of years, and we've been working with him ever since. So it was a 4-piece, guitarist who sings lead, keyboardist who sang lead in a couple, me who doesn't sing really at all. I did backgrounds on a couple songs, and the drummer who also did background vocals. As things were going along, there were some issues. We kind of talked about them as a band here and there, but they didn't really get resolved. When we approached COVID, of course, not even knowing COVID happened, we had 2 gigs, one, I believe, in October and one in November of 2019. By that time, I was having major problems with my thumb, my left thumb here, not my slapping thumb, but my necking thumb. I don't know, that's probably not the right term for it. And I ended up having surgery on that, but I wasn't able to play anymore. Also, at the same time, I bought a house, so November 19th of 2019, I think it was, or maybe 17th, somewhere around there, we had our last gig as a band, planning on, after the move was complete and everything, I was going to have surgery, which was scheduled for March, and then we were going to pick things back up again. I wasn't off for more than a month or 6 weeks after surgery. Then COVID hit. And actually, I had the surgery the Thursday before the weekend that the entire country shut down here in the U.S. and the whole world, basically. And, tried to type one-handed for work. I work in IT. It was not easy. And we didn't really know what to do. We thought it was going to be a couple of weeks. Then we thought it was going to be a couple of months. After a while, we said, let's just start up doing Zoom meetings every week or whatever. And then we worked in like I said before, we finished the album, and there wasn't a whole lot of recordings to do. I think all the drums were done. Most of the bass was done, and then the guitars and keys did their own thing, and vocals did their own thing. And then I mixed everything. And we would spend Zoom meetings using some, different tools and things here and there, and Restream and Reaper and things like that to mix kind of live over a Zoom call. And that was fun. And then I think June 2021, everyone had gotten their vaccines. We had started getting together, and we said, what, the main thing we want to do, number one goal is to gig. And I kind of set an ultimatum, and I don't know if the whole band realized how serious I was. I know Spike, the drummer, did. I don't think the other 2 guys really did. And I said I was no longer going to play a sloppy show, and that I won't even book a show until we have our set tight. Now, a set for an original band is 9 or 10 songs. And we had probably 12 to 13 to choose from at that time without writing any new material at all. And we probably had 20 different ideas, like any other band. We were working through, we had a riff library that we were working through, doing some things over Zoom calls and sending ideas back and forth. Didn't really go anywhere with a lot of those. We had one really good song, and that'll come up a little bit later in this video, me talking about it. So what I meant was we had a number of songs or a number of gigs where things just weren't tight, or they weren't tight as a gig. Like, you play the song will be okay, and then you stop and everyone just kind of turns their backs to the audience and does their own thing, and nobody takes over, like talking to the crowd and getting things warmed up or getting into the next song or things like that. We had big issues. Our keyboardist had big issues figuring out each sounds for each song. These keyboards these days have 3,000 different sounds on them. He was struggling finding the ones that he wanted to use. He was struggling to find out which tempo, when things were tempo synced. And generally, I hate to say it, but he didn't know his parts. So I said, you know what? This has to be tight. We can't come in with different volumes, different sounds, or we can't, miss the first 2 measures of every part and then come in. Sometimes it was bad. Sometimes he would come in with a solo that was like 20 decibels louder than the rest of the band. And, any sound guy is going to just take the slider, move it right down, and never go back to it, never turn it up. And then, he's fighting sounds, and he's fighting this, and he's fighting that. And it was just, I said, you know what? That's my ultimatum. We're not booking a show. We're not playing a show until we get tight. Well, 2 years later, we still didn't have 9 songs tight enough to play a gig. Now, granted, over that time, a lot of things happened, and I'll put a link to my being overwhelmed video here. I explain a lot what happened there. Basically, I put an ultimatum to the band again in May of this year. It was early May, and I said, you know what, there's some things that need to really be fixed. Otherwise, I'm thinking of maybe leaving the band. And I don't really know what to do, but this is where I am. Now, the guitarist tried to take that meeting over and make it about himself, which he does. That's what narcissists do. And I didn't really realize he was a narcissist until this whole thing blew up at our faces. But I just said, we need to be tight. We need to do this. We're not going to book a gig until it's tight. Keyboardist, you need to learn your parts, and he said, well, I'm just not motivated to learn my parts because I'm bored and I want to do other stuff. And I said, if you take 3 weeks and learn these 9 songs, some of which you wrote, all of which have been recorded, you have all the parts that you recorded, you can learn them easily enough. Then we go on writing songs. As long as we have this set list, we can gig out whenever we want, and then we can go on. And to be honest, I just wasn't motivated to go to practice. I thought it was because we weren't tight. As I really dug into thinking about it and feelings on the subject, it's really because it was tough to be around the guitarist. I don't want to get too far into this. I don't want to throw anyone under the bus too much, like I already have, but substance abuse is real. People who abuse substances, alcohol mainly in this case, and some weed, and before you even get into the comments about you can't abuse weed, just back off. We're not going to get into that. It really affects a personality. It affects their ability to retain information, to be able to remember things. He was forgetting things 10 minutes before, and we would talk about doing one thing this way, and then 10 minutes later, he would completely forget what we were talking about. He would forget things week to week. Now, he knew his parts, but he was never really what I would consider tight. His excuse was he didn't feel he could really motivate himself to be tight for a show until we booked a show. And I said, well, I'm not booking a show until we're tight. So we have a conundrum here. What are we going to do? Because, the best way to break up this band would be to book a show, and then one practice before the show, we're still not tight, and I just don't show up to the show. And I would hate to do that to the other guys in the band, but that's what would happen. So I think we had a lot really covered in that meeting, and I think everyone was on board. Keyboardist said, yep, he understands. He's going to go learn his parts and take care of that. And then in the practices after that, he just didn't. It was just the same. It was more of the same. Everyone was in a little bit better mood. Maybe the songs had a little bit better energy, but there was still cases where I would look over and we'd be 2 measures into the, verse to chorus or, pre-chorus or whatever change. And he would be fumbling around to try to find what sound he was or what chord or whatever. And I listened to some of the isolated keyboard tracks. So we recorded everything. And they just weren't good. And there's no excuse because we're all pro level musicians. There should be no reason why a pro band takes 2 years and can't get 9 songs together. Now, I'll admit this demotivated me big time, and I just didn't. By the time Thursday got around, I didn't want to go to practice. So part of my discussion in May was to say, hey guys, I'm going to join a different pool league in September. And that's going to take up my Thursday nights for at least 6 months. I'd like to move band to another night, and I think Friday is probably the best night to do it because it's the end of the week. I don't have to worry about getting up for work or staying out late or anything. The guitarist lived 5 minutes from practice. I lived an hour away from practice. So it's really easy for him to keep pushing the band in the way that he does, to stay later and later and later because that's what he wanted to do. He was partying it up and he was having a good time, and he only lived 5 minutes away, and he knew that, he could even walk home if he had to, if he drank too much, which I know happened more than once. And whereas I had to, and I don't drink, so this wasn't an issue for me. I still had an hour drive back though. And driving back, after working a full day, after a full week, and driving back at midnight to then have to struggle to get to sleep again because, you're kind of up in energy after a band practice was rough. Maybe the kids, you guys in your 20s are like, oh, I stay up till 3 a.m. every day. I used to be able to do that too. Just you wait. I'll be one of those old, just you wait, Sonny. I hope I never say that out loud ever again. Sorry. But anyway, and we were all in agreement. We were talking about Fridays. It sounded like it was good. And keyboardist was worried because he plays in another band. He was like, what if I have gigs? And we're like, well, then we either do another night or we skip that week and we have a plan and an agenda for the next week. Like, hey guys, I got a gig this Friday. I can't make it. Okay. Work on this, that, and that for next week. Problem was nobody worked on stuff outside of band practice, except for me, maybe the guitarist, and maybe the drummer. Okay, so there's one guy that didn't work on stuff outside of practice. But so anyway, that was May. So nothing really changed after that meeting. I was losing motivation to even want to go to practice. And then my work mandated a return to campus for Mondays through Wednesdays. So I felt I was stuck, and I felt I needed to prioritize my life in a way that I could handle both work because not only did I have an hour drive to practice with no traffic, with traffic going to work every day is almost an hour commute, and probably more than an hour commute home. And it's in the complete opposite way where band practice was. So I put all this into consideration, and I switched around. I had to cancel one of my pool leagues. I'm actually in two. I had to cancel Monday nights altogether. Guys, sorry, nothing I could really do. I joined a new Wednesday league, which actually had nothing to do with me canceling the Monday league, in case anyone who ever happens to be involved in the pool leagues is watching this. And then my league that I decided to join a league on Thursdays, which I had decided back in May, like I told the guys. So fast forward to early August, and we had a practice, and it was a first practice in a while. Some of the guys got sick. One of the guys threw his back out. There were some just life things happening, and practice seemed okay. It didn't really seem like we made any great strides. It seemed like the keyboardist didn't really make any progress at all in the time we had off. It was obvious he didn't work on anything. He used the band practice to work on his stuff, which if you practice one day a week can't happen. You got to be practicing way more often. You work on your stuff way more often than just the nights the band gets together, because that's the time for the band to get tight, not for you to figure out your parts and figure out your sounds, especially for songs you've been playing for 5+ years. But anyway, we get together in early August, and practice. Like I said, it was average. And at the end, I wanted to stop a little bit early and chat. And I said, "Hey guys, remember when we talked back in May about all the things that I was talking about and priorities in life and things like that? Well, that when I said we were going to have to change practice to Friday nights in September, well, that's coming up in like 6 weeks." And the guitarist lost it. The best I can describe was he had a temper tantrum. He acted like I was attacking his life personally, like I was affecting his schedule personally, and I made it my decision to go out on my way to change his life around. And that wasn't the case at all. At one point, he accused me of making it up because he didn't remember the conversation in May. Remember what I said before about substance abuse and being cognitive thinking and remembering and things like that. He didn't remember the conversation at all. Which is kind of what narcissists do. They make it about themselves and they don't consider others. And I brought up the fact that I'm going into the office Monday through Wednesday, doing a Tuesday or Wednesday practice, and at that time I had canceled my Monday league, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do for my Monday league. I don't remember. The times have been kind of weird since COVID. Really, time has no meaning anymore. But I was trying to make the band better. I was trying to make things better. Moving to Friday nights would have been better overall for everyone in the band, because nobody worked on Saturday. We were on 9 to 5 or Monday through Friday, and we could stay out as late as we want. It was just going to be better situation overall. But because I infringed on someone's schedule without talking to them first, apparently, I got blown up on it. In my 40 years and 129 months of life here, I've never, ever once had someone that I would consider a dear friend act the way that the guitarist acted that night. It was a friendship-ending conversation. Nothing was really said in anger on my part. I was just trying to explain myself, and he just had a temper tantrum. He just refused to talk, or when he would talk, he would make some backhanded comment from the other room or whatever. I finally left. My phone did ring on the way home. I was in the middle of a rainstorm and on the freeway and didn't feel like answering. I didn't want to say anything that I didn't want to say at that time that shouldn't be said, which probably I would have. So I decided to not answer it. That was on a Thursday night. The Saturday after that, I went to see the Here Come the Mummies concert at the Wisconsin State Fair. By the way, I wouldn't call myself a concert connoisseur. On average, I don't see anywhere near one concert a year. That's how few I go to. But I've seen some pretty big bands. I've seen Ozzy 3 or 4 times. I've seen Rush once or twice. I think I saw them twice. I've seen some bigger bands and put on some really good shows. And I would say Here Come the Mummies is by far the best live band I've ever seen. Even though it was at a free, smaller kind of show stage at the fair, greatest band I've ever seen live. I highly recommend going to see them if you get the chance. Horns for Days. It's more of a funk, maybe a little Latin style. Drummer is amazing, bass is amazing, guitarist. I mean, they're all amazing musicians. They're Nashville session musicians. Grammy Award winning or nominated or whatever. No one really knows who they are. There's a lot of rumors out there. We won't get into that in this. But anyway, right as the concert ended, we were walking out, going a different part of the fair. I get this giant text, and it was fine. I mean, it was I love you guys and blah, 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 but I'm doing this and I'm, and me, and you guys have changed your priorities and you, me. Ending the band. And I immediately got in some text messages with the drummer while I was at the fair. We went over to watch another, a cover band. We were texting back and forth and decided that we were still going to be, we were still friends. No problem there. We kind of both decided that our chapter in the life, the chapter of the guitarist in our life was probably over at that point. And the drummer sent him a message basically indicating that. I didn't send anything other than, yeah, I was thinking about sending a similar message that things weren't working out. I'm going to go pick up my stuff tomorrow. And I left it at that. To this day, September 18th, 2023, this is about 5 weeks after it happened. I have not received any sort of apology or even a message or anything from the guitarist. I figured I was going to give him a month, and I unfriended him from Facebook, removed him from my contacts, and I'm basically just ending the friendship. I don't need to have people like that in my life, and it's obvious he doesn't want to be in mine, so we're just going to end it right there. This, as you can tell, this video is kind of my therapy session for this whole thing. So the question you've been wondering, and I'm babbling for 20 minutes here, is what's going on with the channel here? The answer is really, I don't know. Like I said, I was planning on promoting the band with this. I've been talking for 2 years about this mix course that I want to do. And a couple of weeks before the band broke up, we actually finally finished all of the vocals and all of the tracks for the one song that we were going to do called Future, which is a kind of an interesting title here, because the whole song was, imagine the future being a body part, and you're basically ruining your future by kicking yourself in the future by doing something stupid when you're younger, and it'll affect your entire future. It was about one of the guitarist's kids, and some bad life choices he was making, but kind of turn it into like a life choice. Do things now that may affect you in the future, like lose a whole bunch of friends that were probably going to be friends for life if you didn't act the way you did. It has to be said. So I still have that to do. Honestly, I'm not ready to do it right now. There's a lot of editing to do, especially on the vocals, taking breaths out and syncing backgrounds up and things like that. And I can't hear the voice right now. I won't be able to listen to it. It's tough for me enough to listen to our songs on Spotify when it hits my playlist. It's tough to play them for other people who want to know what I do in the band, or what instrument do I play, what kind of music do I play, kind of thing. And I play them that. It's hard to listen to right now. But I will be doing that at some point in the future. By the way, that was another thing that really irked me, is normally you ask a band, how many songs per year do you record? And they can give you a number, 2 or 3. We were years per song. We were together for 10 years, and we've only recorded like 11 songs or 12 songs or whatever it was. And I mean, it was bad. It was, we took a month off to, practice and finish writing and recording that song. And it took 2 years to finish. So that was something that I didn't really want to, I was stalling on this channel to try to get that mixed course out, and now it's going to stall even more. I do have some good news on the band front. The day after I made a big Facebook post saying that the band was done, a guitarist that I played with like 15 years ago contacted me, and I remember playing with him, and I remember things going really well, but the drummer I was playing with at the time for some reason, it wasn't the right style for him. We ended up joining more of a hard rock band together, and which lasted 4 or 5 years and then fizzled out. But I remember playing, I'll say his name, Joel. Joel and I are going to start up a band, and Spike, the drummer from Underground Hive, the 3 of us are going to try to start up a new band. It's going to be similar style to Underground Hive. Obviously, it won't be the same because we won't have the same vocals. It might be less rock and more funk. I might have a sax player in mind. Spike might have a singer in mind. we may look for another instrument. We may not. We've really only gotten together once. This has only happened within the last couple weeks here. We've done a lot of talking. We're on the same page. We're going to do some covers. We're going to do mostly originals, and see what happens. Stay tuned on that. The problem is I'm not going to have any material to mix for quite some time there. I mean, we're probably talking a year before we get anything going on. I'd like to do it sooner than that, but I want to get into writing and back into like the creative side of music rather than just showing up every week and trying to fumble through 9 songs while we get, drunken monologues going on for 15 minutes in between. So again, what am I doing with the channel here? I want to do more bass stuff, and I've wanted to do more bass stuff since the beginning. But if you look at the numbers of videos watched, the Reaper videos always seem to do better than the bass videos. Now, granted, I think a couple of my highest viewed videos have been like bass unboxings or the bass comparison and walkthrough and things. So I'm not really sure. I want to do more bass stuff. I have this guy back here that I bought. This is a Fender American 2 Professional Vintage something or other. I think it's American Professional 2 series. And I wanted a P bass that I could gig with. The one back here somewhere there on the floor has that nitrous oxide, that nitroglycerin, nitrocellulose. I think that's what it is. Nitrocellulose, which is a word I can't say. Finish on it. It's hard to. I don't want to gig it with it because I don't want it to wear. And I know the whole worn bass look is a thing these days. People are paying 5-6 figures for basses and guitars that look worn because they're old and maybe don't have the greatest electronics and they have 100 different parts and they're not the originals anymore. But that's what people like. But the thing I don't like on that is the back of the neck on that thing. I've been talking about sanding it for a while. I don't know what I'm going to do. I did buy a set of these guys, Labella flat one strings, and I'm going to put it on those. And I may sand the neck, I may not. I'm going to get just a different sound out of them for future recordings and things like that. And just something else to play with. So I may do more bass videos. I wanted to do a series of what I was going to call the 1-minute covers. And when I came up with the idea of the 1-minute covers, right about that time, YouTube came out with their shorts videos. So I may do those as YouTube shorts where I just play along to a song for a minute or less and then do that. There are a couple of younger guys in the Milwaukee music scene that I want to do some covers with. We're looking to do an old Dio era Black Sabbath cover. Spike, I need you to do drums on that. We'll talk about that soon. We're going to, Spike and I are going to do drums and bass. I have a guitarist and I have a female singer who are hopefully still around when we're to finally get around to doing this. And then I'm going to mix the whole thing. I'll use that in some videos here and there. I still have a Toucan series of plugins to do, and I'll put a playlist for anything I do Toucan related up here. And I think just when I run into Reaper things, do it. I've already talked about I'm not going to do a video every week. That obviously hasn't happened because I've done like 3 videos this year or whatever. The base of the month has kind of fizzled out just because I've lost all motivation with everything. And in my overwhelming video, or being overwhelmed video that I mentioned earlier, it's hard to be overwhelmed and burned out on one thing and still be active and motivated with others. It kind of just takes over your whole life. So if you're burned out like in your job, it affects your home life. If you're burnt out in your band, it affects your job because you have a crappy night and a crappy practice the night before. You're just not in a good mood the next day. And it just affects everything. I've definitely been in like a really bad funk for a while. And I'm hoping like this new band gets me out of it. I think it will. We have some really good people. We've talked a lot. It's almost been like the Rebound Band, talked a lot about the last situation, things we don't want to get involved in, things we don't want to have happen. And I think if we kind of focus the band around all the, getting rid of all the negative things that we had with Underground Hive and going towards something new, I think that should work for us. So anyway, that is where I'm at. I'm sorry I don't have any actual real content for you. It's been rough. I will continue with the bass riff of the month. In fact, I have one done and I even have drums for it and everything. I just haven't had the motivation and the time. I haven't made the time to record it. That'll come soon. It's not going to be a base riff of the month anymore. I think what I'm going to do is just go back and call them like base riff number 1, base riff number 2, base riff number 3, and we'll just do them. That way I don't have to stop after this year. If I want to keep doing them, I can keep doing them. So that's where we are right now. I guess if you want to wait a few months, you subscribe to this. If you've gotten this far, subscribe, like, comment. Let me know what your situations are in your bands and things like that. I know everyone has a bad band breakup story, and that's really kind of what this video is about. I want to put this behind me, and I'm kind of using this as a platform to do it. Let me know. Leave me a comment. Until next time, I don't know when next time is going to be, but have yourselves an amazing until the next time. I'll see you later. Insert a little video here. In fact, I gotta go after this.